Auzubillahi mineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Elhamdülillahi Rabbil alemin. Ve salatu ve selamu ala Rasulina ve Habibina ve tabi kulubina ve şefi'i zunubina Muhammedin ve ala alihi ve ashabihi ve etbahi ecma'in. Radiyallahu anna ve ankum ve an kâfetil mu'minin. Rabbena atina min ledunke rahmeten ve hi lana min emrina raşeda. Inshallah, we will continue our sohbet on Futuwwa. We are reading Kitab al-Futuwwa of Abu Abdurrahman as-Sulami. He authored this book 1,000 years ago, and the reason I chose this book to demonstrate rooted revival, that our values, our understanding of ethics is not something we are inventing, it's rooted. And also I want the youth to appreciate classical works. And as we will read, you will see that they are timeless, they are atemporal. The values they present, they are universal, applicable in all ages and in all times. You will see this. And these values, they are applicable at the most micro and also most macro level. So Futuwwa at the individual level, Futuwwa at the family level, and Futuwwa at the international level. So we talked about muwafaqa, compliance, compromise, agreements. Suppose that this is applied at the international level. What happens? Then you have global peace, right? And also mulatafa, being kind. Suppose that this is implemented at the global international level. Then you have global peace. And the same way, not responding to wrongdoing with another wrongdoing, which will make the situation worse, right? Tarkul mukafa'a. So again, apply this at the international level. You have global peace. So these principles are for the individuals, but at the same time for the family. Like if you have muwafaqat in the family, wife and husband, they have muwafaqat, they comply with each other's requests and wishes, and also they act in an agreeable manner. If someone does something wrong, they don't respond the same way. So this brings peace and good feelings in the family, right? And the same, so muwafaqat is not only for individuals, but it's for families, communities, institutions, as well as nations at the global level. So that's why it's very important for us to revive the Futuwwa and at all levels, inshallah ta'ala. So today there is a search for global ethics. Can we have global ethics, among all nations? Yeah, Futuwwa is the global ethics. And if states, international institutions promote Futuwwa, then you have global peace and conflict resolution. So I am saying these things to show the importance of applying Futuwwa at different levels. As the author Abu Abdurrahman as-Sulami mentioned, Futuwwa is relational, and any relationship you have, whether with Allah Ta'ala, whether with your friends, or with your teachers, students, employers, even with the angels around you, there is Futuwwa. No condition, no relationship where Futuwwa is not applicable. So it is universal and is applicable in all situations and cases. So never forget that muwafaqat is one of the principles of Futuwwa, compliance, and mulatafa, being latif, being kind, being tender, being soft. This is another principle of Futuwwa. And also al-qiyam bihajat al-ikhwa, working to meet the needs of friends. These are major principles of Futuwwa. And عدم مقابلة الإساءة, يعني ترك المكافأة, not responding to wrongdoing with another wrongdoing, because this escalates the conflicts, right? At the interpersonal relationships, but also at international relationships. If one state does something wrong and then another state does something worse, and then the conflict escalates. But if the other state does not respond with the same way, this de-escalates the conflict. You see that these principles are applicable at individual level, family level, and international levels. So we have some experts, scholars among us. They are specializing on conflict resolution. But conflict resolution principles, they apply, mostly they are derived from Western culture. But alhamdulillah, we have in Islam more. Like in fiqh, we have sulh. But futuwwa is also another source that can be mobilized to apply in conflict resolution and promoting peace in the world at the global level. So akhlaq and adab is not only at the individual level, but also at the institutional level. Let's say you in professional ethics. Futuwwa is at the same time professional ethics, business ethics, and also international global ethics at the same time. So I taught global ethics because of the globalization. People, philosophers in Europe and other parts of the world, they are searching for global ethics. How can we create an ethics that can bring peace to the world? Just apply muwafaqat, mulatafa, tarkul mukafa'a. Just these three principles will change global politics right away and solve many of the conflicts, inshallah ta'ala. So we will continue. So as I have mentioned, futuwwa is about relations. Morality, ethics is about relations. If there is no relationship, there is no morality, there is no ethics. If there is a person who lives alone outside of society, which is a hypothetical case, right? Then you don't need law, you don't need morality, you don't need ethics. But this is impossible. There is no such thing. We have relationships. We have relationship with Allah Ta'ala, we have relationship with the metaphysical world, we have relationship with the society, with nature, with animal kingdom. And a Muslim's relationship at all these levels, vertical relationships with Allah Ta'ala and the angels and the metaphysical world, and also horizontal relationships with other human beings, nature and animal kingdom, this is governed by futuwwa. And futuwwa is makarim al-akhlaq. Futuwwa is muruwwa. Futuwwa is adab. Adab. And adab, futuwwa, muruwwa, whatever you call it, there are different terms. It has always been part of Islamic education in the history. And adab is the secret of success. That's why they say, wasala man wasala bil adab. Those who succeeded because of their adab, by virtue of their adab, owing to their adab. Because adab is about social relations. So if you maintain good social relations, people are happy with you, you have a good team member, you have a happy family, this will contribute to success. But if you have a conflictual person, a character which has conflict with everybody around him, disturbing everybody, having conflict with everybody, then this is a major obstacle in front of your success. So today they call it emotional intelligence. Like this, having learning good social relationship, But we call it adab. And at the entrance of every school in the Ottoman state, they posted this adab Yahoo. Adab for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. Adab Yahoo. Who stands here for Allah. You know, adab Yahoo means adab, you know, have adab, adopt adab, practice adab for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. Because this is very important. Why should we apply ethics? Why should we apply morality? You know, sometimes people say, if you are moral, you are stupid. If you are moral, you are naive. If you are moral, you are irrational. Why do you sacrifice your personal interest? You know, so the answer is here. You know, for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. You know, for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, because this is the most powerful motivation to have adab, to have ethics, to have morality. But if you try to justify ethics based on economic reasons, based on interest, based on utility, of course, these are important arguments to justify morality and adab. There are mundane benefits for adab. It will make you successful in life, but these reasons, these arguments are nothing compared to the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. So adab brings you a pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. Adab makes you loved by Allah Ta'ala, blessed by Allah Ta'ala. So the strongest motivation to have adab comes from Allah Ta'ala. You know, وَرَضْوَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. So the pleasure of Allah Ta'ala is the greatest achievement for us. So if we ground adab on this, then it will have unshakable ground. But if you ground morality and ethics on some utilitarian or pragmatic or social foundations, these foundations are shakeable and not so strong to motivate people to act in an adept way. So that's why there is always conflict between principles and interest. Principles and interest always conflict. So why should I sacrifice my interest if it conflicts with my principles? Okay? So following morality, moral principles, if it requires me to sacrifice my interest, why should I do it? And today, in international relations, you know, when the interest of states conflict with their moral values, they sacrifice moral values. And if they don't sacrifice, they say, oh, you are not rational. So rationality for them means sacrificing your moral values when they clash with your interest. So they rationalize economics. Like rational economics means what? You know, sacrificing all religious and moral values. You know, rationalization in politics, you know, means sacrifice all your moral and religious values when they conflict with your interest. So you need a higher grounding, a higher authority, a higher motivation to tell you not to sacrifice your moral values when they conflict with your interest. And that higher authority is Allah. That's why we should be moral, ethical for the sake of Allah. You know, we should be good to other people, good to nature and all other creatures, animals, for the sake of their creator. So this vertical relationship with Allah Ta'ala should determine our horizontal relations. But if you eliminate this vertical relation with Allah Ta'ala and simply based on horizontal relationship, it is not sustainable. It's not sustainable because in case of conflict, people would easily sacrifice their moral values, their principles, and follow their interest. This is what we observe today in the world scene. You know, during COVID, we have seen many examples of this. those countries who are so kind, so democratic, so supportive for human rights. Look how they behaved, during COVID. They did not care about any principle or about any value. So Futuwwa is an ethical system grounded in gaining pleasure of Allah Ta'ala. The motivation to practice Futuwwa comes from gaining pleasure of Allah Ta'ala, but not from any mundane gain. But this does not mean there will be no mundane benefits if people practice Futuwwa. That's hikmatut tashri'. Of course, there are mundane benefits when you practice Futuwwa. As I have mentioned, success depends on adab. Like, look how Muslims spread Islam to South Asia, to Indonesia, to Malaysia. How? Because of their adab. They have good adab, and people, when they saw them, they said, wow, I must have this man's religion. At Columbia University, one of the students from French literature department became Muslim. And then we asked him, like, why he became Muslim. He said he was on the subway station. In America, they call metro subway. Subway station in the metro. 59th Street is a interchange station, usually very crowded, and there are lots of people who play music, very noisy, and people rushing around. And in that station, during rush hour, he saw a man from South Asia praying on the ground, standing, making salat. And he didn't care about what's going on around him. With khushu and hudu, he was praying, making ruku and sajda. And this friend, who's doing PhD at Columbia University in French literature department, when he saw this, he was so impressed. He said, I must have this man's religion. And he came to Muslim Association and became Muslim. And this man doesn't know. He caused such a bright student to become Muslim. People with adab, they serve as ambassadors of Islam, and other people, when they see them, they admire them, they adorn them, and they say, I must have this man's religion. And your action speaks louder than your words. And that's the best da'wah, with your actions. And the historical example for this is the way people in South Asia, like Malaysia, Indonesia, came to Islam, because and Sri Lanka also, we should not forget Sri Lanka. Merchant Sufis, merchant scholars. They were going there. They were so honest in their business, and people liked the way they conducted their business, and they accepted Islam. Alhamdulillah. And today, when we revive Futuwwa at the individual level, at the family level, at the institutional level, at the global, international level, this is the best da'wah, to bring other people to Islam, because our actions will speak louder than our words, inshallah ta'ala. But today, all ethical systems are based on mundane interest. So you should be moral because it serves your interest. You should be ethical because it will make you successful, happier, etc. You should be ethical because it will give you good image, good publicity, etc. These are all mundane justifications to become moral and ethical. That's why those ethical systems doesn't make people more ethical. I taught comparative ethics for 2 years, and there's a textbook published by Oxford University Press, and in the introduction, the author says he's been teaching ethics for so many years, and he realized that at the end of the course, students become less sensitive to ethical issues. Just counterproductive, you know. He teaches them ethics so that they become like more ethical, more sensitive to ethical issues, but just the opposite. Why? This is because of this reason. Because they don't have good justification to act ethical, to sacrifice your material interest when it contradicts with your ethical values. And when the students see this thick justification, thick grounding, you know, the lack of strong arguments, you know, then they say, why should we care about ethics? You know, it's very thinly justified, very thinly defended. But when you bring in this metaphysical grounding, you know, when you say adab Yahoo, you know, have adab for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, treat the creation nicely for the sake of their creature, then this is a very strong grounding. We love all creatures of Allah Ta'ala for the sake of their creator, and we treat them nicely for the sake of their creator, regardless of what they are doing, regardless of how they will respond back to us. So this is the uniqueness of the Futuwwa ethics, and this is how we should teach it to our young generations. And it is summarized in this statement, adab Yahoo. You know, adab for the sake of Allah Ta'ala, finished. You know, so now we will continue, inshallah Ta'ala, reading Abu Abdurrahman As-Sulami's book on Futuwwa. So he says, من الفتوة ترك طلب عثرات الإخوان. You know, one of the principles of Futuwwa is not to spy on your friends, not to expose their mistakes and shortcomings. You know, this is part of the Futuwwa. So don't search for the mistakes, faults of your friends. Do the opposite. Ustur uyubahum. You know, cover up. If they make a fault, if they have a mistake, cover it up rather than exposing it. You know, rather than make everyone know about this. And this also called tajassus. Tajassus, wala tajassasu. Allah Ta'ala orders in the Quran, don't spy on each other. Don't violate the privacy of your brothers and sisters. Don't violate the privacy of other people. Don't spy on them. So there are so many benefits involved in not exposing other people's arguments. This is called mudarat. Mudarat means عدم استعجال في التربية. عدم استعجال في تصحيح الأخطاء. It's called mudarat. You know, you wait for the proper time, you know, to correct a mistake, not jump and expose it. So أخبرنا أحمد بن محمد بن رجاء البزاري حدثنا أحمد بن عمير بن جوصاء حدثنا أبو عمير عيسى بن محمد حدثنا محمد بن يوسف حدثنا سفيان بن ثور بن يزيد عن راشد عن معاوية رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنك إن اتبعت عورات المسلمين أفسدتهم أو كدت أو أن تفسدهم. So this hadith is narrated by our author Abu Abdurrahman As-Sulami from Ahmed bin Muhammad bin Raja al-Bazzari, who narrated from Ahmed bin Umair bin Jawsa, who narrated from Abu Umair Isa bin Muhammad, who narrated from Muhammad bin Yusuf, who narrated from Sufyan bin Thawr bin Yazid, who narrated from Rashid, who narrated from Muawiyah radiallahu anhu. And Muawiyah radiallahu anhu said that Rasulullah said, إِنَّكَ إِنِ اتَّبَعْتَ عَوَرَاتِ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. So if you search, if you expose private mistakes of your fellow Muslims, أَفْسَدْتَهُمْ, you corrupt them more. أَوْ كِدْتَ أَفْسَدْتَهُمْ, or you are about to corrupt them even further. So the question is how exposing mistakes corrupts people more. Think about this. This is about human psychology. Let's say you have a child, he's embarrassed, he does something wrong, but he's embarrassed about it. That's why he keeps it secret, okay? When you expose it, he's no longer embarrassed. He no longer feels embarrassed and ashamed for his mistake. Then he does it openly. Which one is better? To have somebody who does something wrong, and because he feels embarrassed about it and keeps it secret, and then somebody who doesn't feel embarrassed makes that mistakes openly in the open. So which one is better? Of course, someone who is embarrassed about his mistake still has this guilt consciousness, doing it secretly. So maybe you need to support this guilt consciousness, this haya, so that he stops doing it even secretly, okay? But then if you break this wall of embarrassment, then everything is in the open, okay? He no longer feels embarrassed and ashamed about this. So this is very important in educating children and teaching them good morality. That's why Imam Ghazali says, when you see your child making a mistake and he feels embarrassed about it, don't expose it. Don't tell him like he saw that you saw him doing this mistake. Indirectly try to change his behavior while keeping his face, while not downgrading and embarrassing him. It's a good strategy in education. So keep his face, don't dishonor him, don't make him feel embarrassed, but indirectly educate him, because every fault is an outcome of a state in the heart, and every outcome, every action originates in some ideas, in some state in the heart. So this is the root of it. So fix the root cause of that action. Then the action will be eliminated automatically. So let's say if somebody doesn't pray, a child or a person doesn't pray. So not praying is an outcome of a lack of iman, or a lack of fear from the punishment, or a lack of hope for paradise. So strengthen the iman in Allah Ta'ala, strengthen the fear from paradise, strengthen the hope for going to paradise, and also strengthen the feeling of shukr and expressing the shukr through ibadat. Then this behavior will change. So exposing the fact that he's not praying is not going to change the behavior, because the root cause is there. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. So change the anfus, change the anfus, because all the practical actions, these are outcomes of what's in the nafs, what's in the heart. So if there is even a limited haya, just protect this amount of haya. Don't eradicate it. But try to nourish the origins, the foundations of good actions, inshallah ta'ala. So that's why, exposing mistakes increases corruption rather than stopping it. So this is a really refined point in the education of children, and also the way we deal with our friends. So if you notice that your friend is doing something wrong, he has a fault, but he's trying to hide it. That means, he's embarrassed about his fault. He knows it is wrong. He doesn't want to show it to other people. Don't expose it. Don't make it public. And help him to overcome that, inshallah ta'ala. ومن الفتوة حضور الدار من يثق به من الإخوان من غير دعوة. One of the principles of Futuwwa is visiting your friends without expecting invitation from them. Okay? Just call them, will come to see you. Don't expect, oh, let them invite me to go and visit them. Okay? So in the past, they did not have telephone or anything. They just went. I remember like in Turkey when we were little children, at that time there was no phone. So like our relatives should come directly and knock our door anytime they want. And then like my parents, they were like so happy that they come over in the middle of the night, and we should insist that they sleep, at home and leave in the morning. And they were doing this. So this is part of the Futuwwa. But you do this with your close friends, not with everybody. That's why he said, يعني حضور دار من يثق به, من يثق به. I mean, if you trust that this friend will not feel disturbed, like because today we live in the age of individualism. Some people feel disturbed. If you tell them, okay, I'm coming to visit you. I want to have a cup of tea and visit you. And like a good Muslim will be happy. Like somebody coming to visit him, to honor his home. He would feel happy with this. But some people may not feel so happy because they are not prepared for this kind of relationship. So when you see like somebody is a good Muslim, Futuwwa, Ahlul Futuwwa, has this Futuwwa star in his heart, stamped in the heart. We distribute you Futuwwa star. It's not on your jacket. It should be stamped on your heart, inshallah ta'ala. And then good behaviors come out of it. And the Futuwwa star has 8 corners, and each corner stands for a good quality. And each good quality originates from the Sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam. Why 8 corners? Because there are 8 paradise. That means if you practice this makarim al-akhlaq, this Futuwwa, you enter one of those 8 paradise. So the path, the way, the road to paradise is by practicing makarim al-akhlaq. So that's why they had this 8-corner star, and you see this 8-corner star everywhere in Islamic architecture, but very few people know what the meaning of this 8-corner star, which is commonly used in architecture, in ornamentation, everywhere. But now you know, and then you have it, as a sticker. You carry it. It will remind you, okay, practice Futuwwa, practice makarim al-akhlaq, practice adab for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. So it's a good reminder for each one of us, inshallah Ta'ala. So this is one of the principles of Futuwwa, that you visit your friends without expecting invitation from them. This strengthens the relationships, to maintain the relationship. And al-ajru liman dhahaba. Al-ajru liman dhahaba. So don't wait people to come and visit you. Go and visit them. And I had a sheikh, he was like very old, over 100 years, and he used to come and visit me and visit other students. He used to travel to America to visit his students in America, and some of the people said, you are sheikh, you are old, they are your students, why do you go and visit them? He said, al-ajru liman dhahaba. So the ajr, for the one who goes to visit. And he said, am I bigger and more important than Prophet Muhammad? he used to visit the homes of his younger ashab. He used to go there and eat and even sleep there. So he didn't say, I am messenger of Allah, I am Rasulullah, and they should all come and visit me. He was going and visiting them, right? So, for people younger than us, even our students, and of course people who are, more important than us also, we should just, make this visit to them. So, أخبرنا عبد الله بن محمد بن علي بن زياد حدثنا محمد بن إسحاق الثقفي حدثنا سعيد بن يحيى حدثنا أبي حدثنا يزيد بن كيسان عن أبي حازم عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال بين أبو بكر وعمر رضي الله عنهما جالسان إذ جاءهما النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال ما أجلسكما هاهنا قال الجوع يا رسول الله والذي بعثك بالحق قال وأنا والذي نفسي بيده ما أخرجني إلا الجوع قال اذهبوا إلى بيت فلان رجل من الأنصار وذكر الحديث. So this hadith is narrated by our author Abu Abdurrahman As-Sulami from Abdullah bin Muhammad bin Ali bin Ziyad. He narrated from Muhammad bin Ishaq al-Thaqafi. He narrated from Sa'id bin Yahya, who narrated from his father, who narrated from Yazid bin Kaysan, and Yazid bin Kaysan narrated from Abu Hazim. Abu Hazim narrated from Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu, and Abu Huraira said, "Bayna Abu Bakr wa Umar radiyallahu anhuma jalisani, idh ja'ahuma an-Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam faqal." So Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Umar, they were sitting together, somewhere, and Rasulullah came to them, and he asked, "Ma ajlasakuma hahuna?" What made you sit here, and wait? Qala al-ju' ya Rasulullah. They said, hunger made us, come and sit here, because both of them were hungry and thinking about, having lunch or dinner somewhere, and. والذي بعثك بالحق قال وأنا والذي نفسي بيده ما أخرجني إلا الجوع. And he said, I also came out of my home, to eat something, to get some lunch or dinner, to have a meal. So he also got hungry and got out of his home, looking for some food. قال اذهبوا إلى بيت فلان رجل من الأنصار. And Rasulullah said, go to the house of this man from Ansar. So without waiting any invitation, just go to his home, tell him we are hungry, came to eat. See what I mean? So this is sunnah of Rasulullah alayhi salatu wasalam, but he chose this particular Ansari because he knew that this Ansari will welcome unexpected guests. So welcoming unexpected guests is a high level of spirituality and morality and sabr and tahammul. So they all went to the Sahabi, and he was very happy that they came over. He welcomed them and offered them the meal. So we should do the same, inshallah ta'ala, with our friends. من الفتوة ترك العيب على طعام يقدم له. So you go unexpectedly to the house of a friend, and you are unexpected guest, and he offers you whatever is available at the moment, right? Then there is adab. There is adab. ترك العيب على طعام يقدم إليه. So you don't criticize the food presented to you. Okay? Anything that's presented to you, whether you are an invited guest or unexpected guest, in any occasion, don't blame, don't criticize the food that's offered to you. Because the food that's offered to you is a great blessing. Maybe you don't like it, but this is ni'mah min Allah. And the adab, ta'zimu ni'matillah. Ta'zimu ni'matillah. There is al-adabu billah, and there is al-adabu bi khalqillah. So al-adabu billah requires you to venerate, to respect any gift, any food given to you, presented to you, because this is from Allah Ta'ala, okay? And then al-adabu bi khalqillah. So there is vertical adab, al-adabu billah, and horizontal adab, al-adabu bi khalqillah. Both. So stop criticizing any food that's offered to you. This is part of the Futuwwa. أخبرنا محمد بن عبد الله بن محمد بن صبيح حدثنا عبد الله بن شيروي حدثنا إسحاق الحنظلي حدثنا جرير عن أبي حازم عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه. So this hadith is narrated on the authority of Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Muhammad bin Sabih, who narrated from Abdullah bin Shirawayh, who narrated from Ishaq al-Hanzali, who narrated from Jarir, who narrated from Abi Hazm, who narrated from Abi Hurairah. I'm reading this isnad so that our audience, especially our young children, students, know how Islamic knowledge is narrated. This is something unique to us. But sometimes they get impatient, to listening to the Senate, reading from the 1,000-year-old book, But this elevates you to a higher level of knowledge. This exposes you how this knowledge has been transmitted through 1,000 years and how it reached to us in an authentic way, and why we rely on these books. Why do we take them seriously? Why do we trust in this knowledge? And it also shows that these ethical principles, they are not only verbally narrated in the books, but they are transmitted from one generation to other generation by practice. It's not just a discourse, but it's a practice. So each sheikh, each teacher transmitted to the student verbally, but also in practice. So Abu Hurairah narrated from Rasulullah sallam that ما عاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم طعاما قط كان إذا اشتهاه أكله وإلا تركه. So Abu Hurairah says that Rasulullah sallam has never ever criticized any dish, any meal. If he liked it, he ate it. If he didn't like it, he didn't say anything against it. Okay? So when a food is presented to you, if you like it, eat it. If you don't like it, just leave it like that. Don't say anything bad about the food. Okay? So that's the etiquette of meal. فمن الفتوة استعمال مكارم الأخلاق إذ هي من أعمال أهل الجنة. So one of the principles of Futuwwa is adopting values of makarim al-akhlaq. And makarim al-akhlaq is the common foundation of Muslim society. Makarim al-akhlaq is what holds Muslim society together. These are the common values. But unfortunately, we are so alienated, to our culture. Now we are searching for common values, and we don't know what are those common values. Makarim al-akhlaq, this is the common ground for Muslim Ummah, for Muslim society, that keeps us all together. Like a Muslim comes from, let's say, Indonesia, another Muslim comes from America, another one comes from Russia. They meet in Hajj, they are together, then they are, mashallah, immediately brothers and sisters, as if they have been friends for 40 years. What brings them together? This is the Futuwwa, the makarim akhlaq, the adab. They sit on the table, each one starts with Bismillah. Each one eats with the right hand. Each one washes the hand before and after. This is adab. This is what brings them together, and this is what standardizes their behaviors, This is the common ground for the Ummah, for Muslim society. But this makarim al-akhlaq, where does it originate from? From paradise. Yeah, makarim al-akhlaq هي من أعمال الجنة. You know, the first human relationship took place in paradise between Sayyidina Adam and Sayyidina Hawa. So what kind of akhlaq they had there? They had makarim al-akhlaq. They had futuwwa. You know, one of the principles of futuwwa is when you make a mistake, you acknowledge and accept your mistake and apologize for it. You know, like in paradise, Sayyidina Adam and Hawa, they made mistake, and Shaitan also made mistake. You know, Sayyidina Adam and Hawa, they immediately accepted their mistake, apologized for it, and tried to compensate for it. This is part of the futuwwa. You know, futuwwa doesn't mean people will be faultless, they will be, infallible. No, you know, every one of us is fallible. Each one of us make mistake. You know, and Rasulullah said in a hadith, he said the difference between a Muslim and a munafiq, a mu'min makes mistake, he accepts his mistake and apologizes for it. But a munafiq or a kafir, when he makes a mistake, he insists in his mistake. He doesn't want to accept his mistake out of arrogance. And he thinks if he accepts his mistake, his status, social status will be compromised there. So Adam and Hawa, they accepted their mistake, apologized for it, and the Ahlul Futuwwa, the Fata, the good Muslim does the same. When he makes a mistake or she makes a mistake, accepts his mistake, apologizes for it, and tries to compensate for it. But the followers of Shaitan, they act like Shaitan. What did Shaitan do when he made a mistake? He didn't accept his mistake. And he accused Allah Ta'ala for ordering him to prostrate in front of Sayyidina Adam. As if Allah Ta'ala didn't know how to give correct order. You know, as if Allah Ta'ala made a mistake by ordering him to prostrate before Adam. And this sajda, this is sajda to ta'zim, laysa sajda to al-ibadah. Because sajda to al-ibadah is for Allah Ta'ala. But this was sajda to ta'zim. So he didn't make sajda, and he accused the lawgiver. He questioned the law out of his arrogance, kibr. And kibr is the most important source of atheism. Kibr is the most important source of kufr. When you study sources of kufr, source of ilhad, the most important source is kibr, this arrogance. Shaitan became kafir out of arrogance. Namrud became kafir out of arrogance. Fir'aun became kafir out of arrogance. Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab became kafir out of arrogance. So out of arrogance, people deny the truth. If truth does not serve their interest, their image, they deny the truth. So today, we have people who completely deny existence of truth. This is post-truth people, postmodern. They call themselves postmodern. They present themselves as if they are like very intellectual. They present themselves as if they came to conclusion that God doesn't exist, you know, religion doesn't exist, morality doesn't exist, out of intellectual, philosophical search. No, they do so out of their hawa. They do so out of their kibr. They do so because they are enslaved by their desires, by their hedonism, not out of intellectual search. And the Quran testifies for this. أَفَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَى. You know, so they become kafir, they become atheist, they become, they deny existence of truth, they deny any religion, They deny any moral system because they are enslaved by their hawa, and they cannot get out of it. So makarim al-akhlaq is something we inherit from paradise. It originated first in paradise, and it was practiced by messengers of Allah Ta'ala and by their ummah, and when they go back to paradise, they are not going to change akhlaq. Their akhlaq will be the same. Rasulullah ﷺ will behave in paradise the way he behaved in this world. And all other messengers of Allah Ta'ala, they will behave the same in paradise the way they behave in this world. Because there is no room for improvement. They are following the best akhlaq, the best adab here, and their adab is the adab of Sayyidina Adam and Hawa, which is inherited from paradise. أخبرنا أبو القاسم إبراهيم بن محمد النصرابادي حدثنا محمد بن الربيع عن سليمان الجيزي بمصر حدثنا أبي حدثنا طلق بن السمح حدثنا يحيى بن أيوب عن حميد عن أنس رضي الله عنه أنه مرض فعاده بعض إخوانه فقال لخادمته هلمي لإخواننا ولو كسرا فإني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن مكارم الأخلاق من أعمال أهل الجنة. So this hadith is narrated on the authority of Anas radiallahu anh. He was ill, and some people came to visit him for iyadatul marid, because this is also sunnah to visit ill people. And Anas asked his servant, halummi li ikhwanina walaw kisran, offer something to our guest, even some pieces of small bread, kisr, some pieces of small bread. فإني سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن مكارم الأخلاق من أعمال أهل الجنة. So because offering something to your friends who came to visit you in your home, this is part of makarim al-akhlaq. And he said, I heard from Rasulullah that inna makarim al-akhlaq min a'mal ahl al-jannah. Makarim al-akhlaq is the practice, is the way of life of people of paradise. So those who practice makarim al-akhlaq, they live in this world as if they are in paradise. So if you want to establish paradise in this world, you should promote makarim al-akhlaq. Then the akhlaq of people here in this world become like the akhlaq of the people of paradise. May Allah give success to us in practicing makarim akhlaq in this world and follow the ethics of the people of paradise, inshallah ta'ala. That's why the star of Futuwwa has 8 corners, symbolizing that this ethics, this morality, this akhlaq comes from paradise, and if you practice it, you go to paradise. Inshallah ta'ala, we stop here. May Allah help us in practicing makarim akhlaq, which we inherit from Rasulullah alayhi salatu wassalam. Our goal is iltizam as-sunnah as-sahiha ala al-dawam zahiran wa batinan alanan wa sirran wal-ijtinab min jami' al-bid'a wal-ijtinab min al-rukhas wal-ijtinab min al-fuduliyat wal-ijtinab min al-shubuhat wal-ijtinab mimma la ya'nina. This is the summary of the Futuwwa. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.